covering Northern California. You're watching Action News Now, coverage you can count on.
Creating a new emergency evacuation option, what the town of Paradise is planning for future safety.
Plus,
and the voters of this state said enough is enough.
you voted for a crime crackdown, but the governor can't find the money to pay for it. We hear from local leaders who pushed back at the Capitol today.
But first, with protests against ICE raging across the state, one local county is doubling down on its anti-sanctuary stance. Shasta County is working to make it clear that it is not a sanctuary jurisdiction.
We told you last week when the Department of Homeland Security unveiled a list threatening to cut federal funding to states, cities, and counties it claims are defying federal immigration laws. It named 48 of California's 58 counties, including everyone in our region. Action News Now reporter Blake Mayfield shows us how Shasta County supervisors are responding.
So this letter is just basically to let the Department of Justice know that we may be in California, but this particular county is not a sanctuary county.
Yes, it is.
Shasta County supervisors unanimously approved sending a letter to the Department of Homeland Security to reiterate it is a non-sanctuary jurisdiction regarding immigration.
I know you want to get thrown out because that's your cause, but just let's get back to business.
My state and my country.
Both opponents and supporters of the letter made it clear how they felt about the board's decision.
This letter isn't necessary. The county's already taken this position more than once. We should be focused on local issues, not feeding into national theatrics.
Shasta County is different, Shasta County is safe, and Shasta County will remain that way because we have people in our community who care.
One protester got into it with Chair Kevin Cry on two separate occasions while discussing the topic.
Thank you. Moving on to part 4. Okay, that's your second warning.
I'm out. Don't worry. Have a great day.
All right.
District 3 Supervisor Corky Harmon also chimed in.
I guess these people don't care that the last 4 years they let whoever wanted to come in and cross our borders, and I'm okay with that.
The letter will be sent to the Department of Homeland Security within the next 10 days. Reporting in Redding, I'm Blake Mayfield, Action News Now.
I spoke with Congressman Doug LaMalfa about the issue. Here's his take.
Counties shouldn't be concerned about massive fines right now. There probably needs to be some reassessment.
I don't think the massive fines are going to hit them because we'll be able to intervene way before that. It might be only 10, 12, 15 out of the 58 that would have designated themselves sanctuary county. So there's something wrong with the list on that. That's another cage we got to rattle here in town too.
Outside today's Board of Supervisors meeting in Redding, nearly a dozen protesters gathered to make their voices heard. And it comes amid protests in Los Angeles over the weekend against ICE agents as the federal government cracks down on illegal immigration. Protesters in Redding told Action News Now that they are rallying in solidarity with immigrants and to denounce the actions of President Trump and his deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles.
We stand with Palestine, we stand with immigrants, we stand with queers, we stand with trans people, we stand with people of color, we stand with every minority group.
And as those protests in Southern California continue, the Pentagon has deployed 700 Marines to Los Angeles to help National Guard members respond to the immigration protests. President Trump is defending that move, bypassing California Governor Gavin Newsom.
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators, they're insurrectionists, they're bad people, they should be in jail.
We're going to show you a live look right now at Los Angeles as those protests continue today. California Governor Gavin Newsom took to social media this morning blasting what the Trump administration is doing, saying that the president, quote, flamed the fires and illegally acted to federalize the National Guard, adding, we're suing him. And that's the case today. Attorney General Rob Bonta announced a lawsuit against the Trump administration a little bit earlier.
They're trying to incite violence. They're trying to impose the kind of rhetoric that only makes the conditions worse, that quite literally put people's lives at risk. And they're intentionally and knowingly doing that.
Top Republicans are backing the president's approach. The situation marks the first time a president has taken control of a state's National Guard without approval in 60 years.
And new at 5, we're following protests in our state capital. Take a look. This is a live look right now on the west, I believe that's the west front of the state capitol where protesters are there. KCRA, the television station in Sacramento, is reporting that demonstrators marched from the capitol to the capitol from Vacaville in support of a state resolution and a federal bill in support of a pathway to citizenship for immigrants. And now just into our newsroom, an evacuation warning that was in place for the Bucks Highlands area of Plumas County. The location of a small vegetation fire earlier today has been lifted. Zone PLU 70B was initially under an evacuation order. Then it was downgraded by the sheriff's office, and now that has been removed. But this is time-lapse video from the Alert California Flea Mountain camera earlier that shows smoke from that fire. Crews now have reached full containment at half an acre. Several fires that broke out over the weekend and into this morning in the Plumas National Forest are now out. The Wolf Fire broke out this morning south of Highway 89, northwest of Greenville, and 4 fires burned as part of the Feather Complex, all of which were sparked by lightning. There were also 2 human-caused fires, including the lake fire, which broke out at the Snake Lake shooting range, and that grew to be about 3/4 of an acre. The cause is under investigation. We are on fire watch tonight, tracking the Reading fire, which has burned through 39 acres in Trinity County.
2 evacuation warnings are still in place in the Douglas City area for zones 258 and 260. This fire started just before 7 on Sunday night near Reading Creek Road and Highway 3, and it's 25% contained today. CAL FIRE says it threatened structures, but did not damage any. We're going to keep you up to date when the evacuation warning has been lifted. And a live look over Alert California's camera grid out there, which shows both areas of those fires we've been tracking with evacuation warnings in place. The top camera right there, that actually is some time-lapse footage of the Highlands fire in Plumas. The bottom is the camera that showed the Reading fire in Trinity County, and really both are looking fine at this time.
Thank goodness,
Yeah.
and hopefully it stays that way. Let's get the latest conditions now from Shasta County. She's been tracking those for us, and we have seen some thunderstorm activity, right, Shasta?
Yes, we have been seeing some thunderstorms in the Mount Shasta area, also in the foothills, Susanville areas. So let's have a look at our temperatures currently right now. So for the valley, temperatures are in the 80s to 90s range. We have our foothills in the 80s to 90s range as well. And then, of course, we have our mountains in the 50s to 80s range right now. So pretty nice temperatures. But yes, the Mount Shasta area, some of our foothill region is seeing a couple of showers and some thunderstorms. They'll continue on for the next couple hours, and then they'll diminish pretty soon around 8, 9, 10 p.m. Now, this is a look at our wind speeds currently right now. So the highest that the wind speeds are currently for the valley is 16 miles per hour. Foothills is looking pretty calm right now, and then for our mountain, our wind speeds are around 17 miles per hour. And this is a sneak peek at our temperatures for tonight. By 6 p.m. it'll be 93 degrees and will be mostly sunny throughout the night. Back to you.
Thanks, Sade. New at 5, the Shasta County District Attorney's Office says 3 cases were dismissed because of the courthouse flooding that we told you about last month. One of those cases involves a Reading man accused of a deadly DUI crash back in November 2023. Police say Daviante Norwood was driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs when he crashed into Jose Zuno. Norwood was charged by the DA's office for murder and reckless driving. Well, the DA says last Monday the case was dismissed after it reached the statutory limit on May 30th. But charges have been refiled, and Norwood will be back in court for a preliminary hearing on June 12th.
The town of Paradise is looking to expand Row Road to provide another evacuation route, but it needs help from the community to move forward. Action News Now reporter Margot Rowe is live in Paradise, been looking into this today. So Margot, how can people in the area help with the project?
Alan, the town is seeking input from the community as it does have developed plans, but it wants to see which plans the community favors the most. Now, town engineer and public works director Mark Maddox explained to me that Row Road expansion would essentially add a new road to serve as an evacuation route. It would connect Row Road to Clark and to Pence and continue to stretch the other direction to the Skyway. However, the town needs input on the different plans laid out for people to weigh in on at a meeting on Wednesday night.
This is just the beginning of a multi-year process, what's called the environmental review phase that complies with California Environmental Quality Act. That really it starts the process to engage the community and start studying the project at a very detailed level to look at what are the impacts of a potential project and what are the community's concerns that they'd like us to study. And so this public meeting on Wednesday is really just kicking off what's called a public scoping period.
And the public scoping period lasts until June 23rd. And this project is still in the early phase as construction won't roughly start till 2029. And some people I spoke with are in favor of the extension, but other folks I spoke with weren't really familiar with the project at all. So that's why the town is having this meeting on the town council chambers Wednesday night at 6 p.m. for people to learn more about the project and to ask questions. Reporting live in Paradise, I'm Margot Rowe for Action News Now.
All right, thank you, Margot. You can also learn more about the project and make comments online. We've put a link on our website for you to do that. Just click on the News tab and News Links. Now look at how close we are to seeing a trade deal between the U.S. and China as talks kicked off today in London.
Plus, do you think that there is room for allowing for that party experience to enhance the experience to a certain degree within reason?
Yeah, I think Chico's a very unique place in any number of ways. If you look across the state and you look at the CSUs, you look at the UCs, you look at other universities and colleges, it's hard to think of another one where you can have this full college experience.
Chico State may have ditched its party school reputation, and according to President Steve Perez, it has more than ever to offer students and the community. We have highlights from this week's Straight from the Source podcast in the next half hour. But first, details about a new U.S. travel ban now in effect, impacting 19 countries.